Welcome to the Soft Revolution. My name's Leo Kalian, and the idea this show is exploring is what softness looks like when it becomes the strategy instead of the apology. Today is episode 5. In ancient Athens, when the city decided it was finished with you, it didn't put you on trial. It didn't need to. Because once a year, every citizen could pick up a shard of broken pottery, scratch a name into it, and drop it onto a pile in the marketplace. No charge, no defense, no chance to stand up and explain yourself. If around 6,000 of those shards turned up, the man with the most shards was gone. For 10 years, exiled by a crowd, many of whom had never spoken a single word to him. The broken shard had a name, ostrakon. That's the root of the word we still use today, ostracized. Sit with what that actually was. The first great democracy, the one we trace nearly everything back to, one of the earliest machines it built, wasn't a court, and it wasn't a vote for something. It was an annual ritual for making a chosen person disappear. And you didn't even have to have done anything. You weren't being punished for a crime. You were being removed for being too big of a presence, for getting prominent enough that the room wanted you gone. The whole thing ran on a single fuel: the fear of having your name come up. Plutarch tells a story about this that I keep turning over. There was a man named Aristides, an Athenian so straight-dealing in public life that people nicknamed him the Just. During one of these votes, an illiterate citizen who didn't recognize him handed Aristides his own shard and asked him to scratch a name onto it for him. The name the man wanted gone was Aristides, and Aristides, a little startled, asked him what Aristides had ever actually done to this man. Nothing, the man said. Didn't even know him. He was simply tired of hearing everyone call him the Just. And Aristides, without a word, wrote his own name onto the shard and handed it back. That's the machine in a single sentence. You didn't get exiled for being bad. You got exiled for being a name people were worn out by, for being too present, for taking up more of the air than the room could forgive. Most of us are never going to have our names scratched into pottery. We got the upgrade. We got the fear of it installed early, humming away under everything we do. The dread of the room turning. That held breath right before you find out whether you're the name on the shard this week. Anyone who stood on a stage knows the exact silence I mean. The half second where you genuinely can't tell yet if the crowd is with you or against you. And that dread runs a frightening amount of your life if you look at it honestly. Who you soften for, what you swallow, how long you stay somewhere that's quietly killing you because leaving means being talked about. This episode is about that fear. Where it came from, who built it, and the strange, almost embarrassing thing that happens to a person the day it stops working on them. The mechanism, stripped right down, is this. Shame is the oldest crowd control tool we have, and it's astonishingly cheap to run. A prison needs walls and guards and food. Shame needs none of that. It doesn't even need a crowd in the room with you. It needs one thing and one thing only. That you still want back in. That you still care what the pile of shards says. The entire weight of it rests on your desire to be allowed. And when that desire wobbles, the people running the machine get nervous. Because a person who stopped wanting in is a person they can't move. Let me give you the most literal version of this I've found. Scotland, 1567. There's a device. It's called a scold's bridle, sometimes just the branks. An iron cage that locks over a woman's whole head with a flat metal bit that presses down onto the tongue, sometimes spiked so that trying to speak cuts your mouth. The bridle's entire job was humiliation. They'd lock it on and lead the person through the town so the whole place could watch. And who got the bridle? Women who talked too freely. Gossips, nags, scolds, and women who said inconvenient things to the wrong men. One of the earliest recorded cases is a woman called Bessie Taillefer who'd accused a local official of cheating people with false weights and measures. She may well have been right. It didn't matter. They branked her and chained her to the town cross for an hour, so the lesson was crystal clear. And the lesson wasn't really for her. It was for everyone watching. This is what an inconvenient mouth costs. That's shame with its mask off. An actual iron muzzle bolted to a human head. And the reason this chills you is because you recognize the shape of it. Because the bridle most of us wear doesn't come in iron. It's the one you lock onto yourself every time you decide it's safer to say nothing. So that's the machine from the outside. Now from the inside, because this is where it stops being history and starts being your Tuesday. The leash pulls in tiny, almost invisible ways. The opinion you had, fully formed, then swallowed because the table had already agreed on something else. The laugh you gave a joke that wasn't funny, that was a little cruel, because not laughing would have made you the problem. The sorry you said when someone else stepped on your foot. The version of you that goes quieter, easier, blanker the second you walk into certain rooms. We call all of that politeness, but it's closer to a small payment made over and over to stay loud. Most of us pay it so automatically that we've stopped feeling the coins leave our hand. And the strange thing, the thing some people worked out a very long time ago, is that the whole transaction happens inside your own head. Nobody can actually shame you without your help. There's a man called Epictetus, born around 2000 years ago and born a slave, owned for years by someone in Nero's Rome. And out of that, of all places, comes one of the clearest ideas anyone's ever had about the human mind. He taught that nothing outside you has the power to disturb you on its own. The insult, the sneer, the name on the shard, none of it carries the sting by itself. The sting is in your judgment that it's an insult. It isn't the man abusing you who wrongs you, he says, more or less. It's your own opinion that he's abusing you. Change the judgment, and the whole thing loses its grip on your throat. And the part I find almost funny is who arrives at the same place. Centuries later, a Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, a man with the entire known world at his feet, the precise opposite of a slave, sits in a military tent at night and writes a private journal to himself, circling the very same idea. That you have power over your own mind, but not over the things that happen to you. And that this, right here, is where your strength actually lives. The Stoics had a word for the state they were chasing, apatheia. And it doesn't mean numbness, and it doesn't mean caring about nothing. It means a self the noise can't hijack, a mind the crowd can't drive. Two men, one of them owned, one of them owning everything. And they walk to the same door from opposite ends of every kind of power there is. The free mind turns out to be the one thing that stopped outsourcing its peace to the room. So here's what's actually underneath all of it. The wanting is the leash. That's the whole secret. And it's almost too simple. Every system that's ever needed to keep you in line, the city with its pottery, the town with its iron muzzle, the family, the workplace, the comment section, had to do one thing first before any of the rest of it worked. It had to teach you to want in. Because shame is downstream of belonging. It only has power over you in exact proportion to how badly you need the door to open. The muzzle, the exile, the silent treatment, the unfollow, none of it means a thing to a person who's stopped applying to be let back in. And there's usually a moment you can point to where the wanting first cracked. The first time you caught the crowd being confidently, loudly, completely wrong about you, about something they couldn't actually see from where they stood. Because once you've watched the crowd be that certain and that wrong about one single thing, you can't ever fully hand it your verdict again. The spell only works while you believe the room knows. The day you catch it not knowing is the day the leash starts to fray. Which means the most ungovernable person in any room is rarely the loudest one or the angriest one. It's the one who's quietly stopped needing the room's approval. You can't shame them because they're not applying. You can't exile them because they've already dropped the part of themselves that wanted to stay. And if you think any of this got gentler with time, look at what we've built. The pile of shards used to be annual and local. Now it's a feed. Infinite, permanent, sitting in your pocket. And the vote runs every hour of every day. The city that can turn on you is the whole connected world now, and it never closes for the night, which is precisely why the oldest freedom there is happens to be the only durable one left. Caring a little less about what the pile says. The philosopher Michel Foucault spent the last lectures of his life on an old Greek idea called parrhesia. Roughly, it means fearless speech, saying the true dangerous thing, the thing that costs you something to say. And he points out something very sharp about it. A king can't do it. A tyrant can't do it. Because the person at the very top risks nothing by speaking. They already hold all the power in the room. Fearless speech only exists for the person with something to lose, who opens their mouth anyway. The risk is the whole point of it. And you only ever find that particular courage the moment you stop needing the approval of the people you're speaking to. So the freedom was never in climbing high enough that nobody could touch you. It was in not needing the room to clap. People who knew you early are often the last ones to clap for you. Because people who knew you before you changed rarely know what to do with the new version. They're not meeting who you are now. They're still emotionally subscribed to your pilot episode. They remember the version of you who was confused, underpaid, too available, asking for permission, shrinking in rooms that weren't even worth entering. So when you evolve, it doesn't inspire them. It disrupts the story they had of you. Suddenly, the person they filed under still figuring it out has standards, has boundaries, has a life that no longer fits their memory. Strangers are easier. They meet you as you are. People from your past keep grading you against old footage. And some people don't go quiet because you failed. They go quiet because you didn't. Food for thought. Let me give you one person who actually lived this, because it isn't only on Greek pottery and Roman tents. 16th century Rajasthan. A woman called Mirabai, born a Rajput princess, married into the royal house of Mewar, set up by birth and by marriage for precisely the kind of life you're meant to want. And she walked away from the entire arrangement. She wrote and sang her own devotional songs to her own god out loud in public, which was simply not a thing a princess and then a widow was allowed to do. And the family did what families and courts and whole cities have always done to a woman who won't stay where they put her. They tried to shame her quiet. Her own songs allude to attempts on her life. The legends tell of a cup of poison sent to her as nectar, a snake folded into a basket of flowers, and she just kept singing. Eventually, she left the palace altogether and spent the rest of her life wandering, singing to anyone, including the people the court wouldn't be seen near. And the princes who tried to silence her? Footnotes now. Names you'd have to go and look up. And 500 years later, her songs are still sung right across India by millions of people who never learned the names of the men who wanted her gone. That's the equation, run across centuries. The room that needs you smaller forgets itself. The one who stopped needing the room gets remembered. I want to thank my school bullies. Seriously. They gave me a psychological boot camp no therapist could design. Because after years of being their favorite target, I realized something wild. Fear has an expiry date. If you feel it long enough, it burns itself out. The system tries to shame you into silence. But shame only works if you still want their approval. And I remember the exact moment it stopped. Someone at school called me a name, and for the first time, nothing moved inside me. The machinery just collapsed. In ancient Rome, they used public humiliation as the ultimate punishment. Funny how many of those people went on to become the ones Rome couldn't govern. Cruelty takes constant energy to keep someone small, but the moment you stop volunteering to be the small one, they lose everything and you lose nothing. I don't wish bullying on anyone. Pain is expensive training, but I won't pretend it didn't make me who I am. Because every voice that told me to disappear accidentally taught me how to be impossible to ignore. I'm not grateful for the cruelty. I'm grateful it failed. Just some food for thought. Now, let me give the other side its strongest shot. Because there is one, and it deserves to be taken seriously. Someone's listening to this thinking, hang on, a person who feels no shame at all isn't free. They're a nightmare. Shame is social glue. It's how a community stops people lying, cheating, hurting each other. The man who genuinely doesn't care what anyone thinks is usually the most dangerous person in the building, not the most enlightened one. And that's true. It's a real risk, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But the whole thing rests on a difference. So let me draw it clean. There's a difference between a conscience and a leash. A conscience is internal. It's yours. It's the part of you that feels bad because you were actually cruel, because you broke something, because you fell short of who you meant to be. Keep that. That's not the enemy here. The leash is the other thing. It's external. It belongs to them. It's the part of you that flinches, not because you did wrong, but because you were seen, because you didn't perform the version they wanted. The conscience stays. The leash is the part you can let go of. And there's a clean test for telling which one's pulling at you. Does this make me a better version of myself, or just an easier one to swallow? And once you can tell those two things apart, something rearranges in how you read confidence itself. Real confidence is quiet. It's regulated. We're taught it looks like dominance, talking over people, winning, never hesitating. But that vision is just nervous system chaos. Real confidence shows up slower, in steady voices and relaxed shoulders and people who don't rush to prove anything. Because historically, the loudest person was often the least safe. Power didn't need to announce itself. The system runs on insecurity. If you doubt yourself, you're easier to sell to, easier to manage, easier to rush. So calm became suspicious. Softness got mislabeled as weakness. But maybe confidence is just a person that feels safe enough to stay quiet. Maybe the flex is just to be chill, calm, steady. Just some food for thought. So the stillness, the one people keep misreading as coldness or arrogance or the old favorite, weakness, is usually just a body that stopped paying the toll. Nothing left to defend. The calmest person in the room is rarely the meekest one in it. Usually they're the one with nothing left to protect because they stopped storing their worth in other people's hands. This is the same shape we found right at the start of this whole podcast back in the first episode. That one was about empire, the long business of taking from one part of the world and calling it progress, with that image of a receipt with the date torn off, a charge so old that nobody reads it as a charge anymore. Shame is the identical trick, just run on the inside. A toll you've paid so many times since so young that you stopped seeing it as a toll and started mistaking it for who you are. The song I'm going to play you in a second lives entirely on the far side of that collapse. There's no struggle in it, no working on myself, no almost there, no trying. It's just the after. What's left in the body once the leash is lying on the floor and the room's opinion has quietly stopped being a currency you trade in. I wrote it at a point where I could finally feel the difference between the quiet that's fear and the quiet that's freedom. And this one is the second kind. The steadiness of a held note that isn't waiting around to find out if you like it. So here's where I'll leave you. You were never going to get free by finally winning the room over. That was always the trap, because a room you have to keep winning is a room that owns you. The approval was never going to arrive in a quantity that felt like enough. There's no number of shards in your favor that ends the fear, because the fear was never really about the shards. You get free the day their approval stops being the currency you price yourself in. And it arrives quietly. Someone reaches for the word that always used to hurt you and nothing moves. The door you've stood outside your entire life waiting to be let through, you realize you can simply turn around and walk and feel the strange quiet of a room rearranging itself behind a person that stopped needing it. They'll have words for you when you go. Cold, arrogant, changed, weak even. Let them keep the words. Words are shards, and you stopped collecting. I hope that makes the song sound different.
Couldn't manage, tried my hardest, I had to drop it, 'cause I come from a different planet. All good things to me, like a magnet. When I walk that walk, talk that talk, move into my rhythm, you can stare and stop. I won't change, won't explain, no more hesitation, I'ma say it plain. You know I'm right down to zero. No fucks, no I don't care, I can't be fussed. Trust when I say I couldn't give one. No fucks, no. I'm bothered, what you think's not my problem, I've already forgot. What you say, what you say, what you say, whoa. Keep talking, what you say is not my problem, I've already forgot. Keep talking, what you say, what you say, whoa. the same mistake more than once. This is who I am, this isn't a front. I don't need to act like you to belong, 'cause I've already won. When I walk that walk, talk that talk, moving to my rhythm, you can stare and stop. I won't change, won't explain, no more hesitation, I'ma say it plain. You